Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of TV is Our Real Mom. I'm Dave,
I'm Katie.
and you are listening to our weekly Westworld podcast in which we share our thoughts on the latest episode of Westworld. And this week's episode was, I believe, episode 7. Is that correct?
That's correct, David.
Oh, nice. And what is the title of the episode?
Oh shit, it's in French. I can try. It's Trompe L'oeil.
Trompe L'oeil.
Yeah.
And you told us all to research it and look it up last week, and I did not do that.
I figured you didn't.
I totally forgot about it immediately after
That
you said it.
sucks because part of a theory that I have is sort of determinant. No, it's not a word. Dependent upon a literal interpretation of this title. But
Okay. Well,
what
based
it
on what you
means,
told me last week, I feel like it sort of refers to Bernard not being able to see the door, right?
well, in a literal sense, but
Hmm.
what it is like a 3D painting. Like, say,
Hmm.
for example, there's one famous one that it looks like a book and a page is turning, but it's all
Okay.
flat. I mean, it's all flat,
Yeah.
two-dimensional, but it
Yeah.
looks so real that you feel like you could walk up there and turn the page and that sort of thing. That's the kind of paintings, and they're amazing. You should look them up if you get a chance. But anyway, that to me, that refers to, it could be a lot of things in this episode alone, but just ascribing more depth and more meaning to something that maybe doesn't have it, like a
Yeah.
host.
Yeah, I guess now that you explain it again, what it is, I think more of William, and
Yes.
his transition in
Yes.
this episode, where he says he feels like this is the real world to him now. This world feels more real than the
He's
world
being
he.
sucked into the 2D painting. He thinks it's
Yeah,
3D.
yeah, exactly.
It's
There you go.
not.
But it's
Yeah.
not though.
It's not, though. It's really not. I mean, I don't want to bury the lead, but
Yeah.
if we talk about William and Dolores first,
Hmm.
I have quite a bit to say about them as well. But perhaps we should go first into the Bernard reveal.
Yeah, let's not bury the lead, Katie.
Oh, it's not.
Okay. Yeah. So Bernard, you had this theory all along in the podcast that Bernard was actually a host. I'm sure you didn't come up with that on your own. I'm sure you read that online somewhere. But still, either way, good theory, good job. It is true. It's correct. Correct theory.
Yeah,
That's all I
we.
have to say.
I was right about that. But I expected after or when Teresa and Bernard were going into the elevator, I kind of figured something sinister was going to happen that would culminate either in Teresa's death or Bernard being revealed as a host. I did not expect both to converge and happen in the same terrifying scene.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. Yep.
that was quite uh it was quite something.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm really liking about this show is there's a lot of big stuff happening that the show could, if this was Walking Dead, I mean, they would just sit on it forever and milk it for everything it's worth, but
Oh yeah.
they're
Hmm.
giving it to us one week after the other. They're giving us reveals, they're giving us big stuff every week, and that's awesome because then you know what? You'll think of something else that's cool to give us next season, like
Right,
don't
exactly.
sit on that good stuff, just keep it coming and come up with some new good stuff next season, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
the possibilities are endless, even in a world like this, even if you are providing us answers. And now that we know that Bernard's a host, there's chances that other people that are out there who are hosts.
Yeah.
But back to the scene in which it was revealed that Bernard is a host.
Real quick before I forget,
Sure.
I hope they don't overdo that.
No, I'm totally with you. Like,
Yeah.
let's not
Yeah,
beat
I'm the
that.
host. The host. She's a host. Everybody's a host. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah,
that.
let's not beat that horse, beat that
Yeah.
dead horse. I mean, it made sense with Bernard because he was always so reserved And just the little things, how he would repeat Ford's lines.
Yeah. Everything
And how Ford would be like, I know how your head works. Just little things like that. Which is stuff, by the way, I noticed myself.
Yeah, every clue you pointed out earlier in the previous episodes of the podcast were all on point. I mean, there were really good little signs pointing that way. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's another nice thing about this. Unlike, and we talk about Lost a lot in this show. And just because we say bad things about Lost doesn't mean we don't like Lost, but there were shortcomings there. And one of their shortcomings was, repeatedly dropping these mysteries, but them not knowing how it was going to play out. Like here, they knew what was going on with Bernard from the beginning. So you can go back to the first episode and watch and see those tracks being laid. So that will be fun to do.
Yeah.
But this scene, okay, why do you think Ford needed to take out Teresa? Like, what was his reasoning for it?
Why kill Teresa of anybody? I mean, obviously his job, he's going to get fired, right? Or they're trying to get him out of there.
Yeah, but
surface level. I mean, that's about that's as deep as I understand this show, Catie. So you're going to have to explain this to me. All I see is, they're trying to get Ford out, so he wants to kill Teresa. Like that's as deep as I can see it. Yeah.
Well, they talk a lot about IP in this episode, which means intellectual property.
Yeah.
And the board member, Charlotte, I think is her name, talks about how they're not interested in robots that can be cowboys and whores and this stuff, that they want the IP, which I believe is the code, right? The code that makes these robots come to life.
Yeah, exactly. It makes perfect sense. I think we might have even talked about it in a previous episode that basically the real inherent value of this place and of what's going on here, it's not, you can do much bigger things on a cosmic scale, in a real life world. You can do bigger things than give people a theme park,
Right.
If you have the capabilities to create artificial intelligence and code that can create people and personalities and decision-making beings like fake humans, there's such bigger applications, people with bigger aspirations in the world, bigger motives. Right. That's where the real value lies.
But Ford simply wants to tell his stories, and he's the only one who knows how to do this, or at least at the level that he knows how to do it at.
Yeah.
And he is trying to prevent the code from being taken out of the park.
Yeah.
Because that's his world that he's created. So now it makes sense that he's going to murder Teresa, which maybe he had this in store even before the little showcase with Clementine and when they fired Bernard. So he probably knew that Teresa was the mole, that she was sending data out of the park. And so maybe he had this plan to kill her anyway. Yeah. And the stuff that they did with manipulating Clementine to be violent.
Because Ford or Bernard did say that, or Ford said that, he made Bernard, he prepared Bernard for that exact purpose. Like everything Bernard has been doing in the recent time frame has been geared
at least
towards
one timeline.
Yeah, everything he's been doing has been gearing towards this moment where that I think Ford said something along those lines at the end of the episode, didn't he? That I've been preparing Bernard for this.
I don't remember.
See, something about like Bernard has just been doing what I told him to, and it was part of the plan all along for him to bring you down here, me kill you. It was all leading to this. So I think you're right. I mean, he had this planned. Yeah.
Teresa thinks she has one up on him, and she's like, you think you control Bernard, but he brought me here. And when he's like, I told him to bring you here, you were like, oh.
I was like, oh, shit.
And then the Hannibal comes out, and oh my God, terrifying.
Hopkins kills, man.
He does. That man just slays. And you know what kills me is that I read some interview with him that they filmed a lot of this a long time ago. And he's like, I don't even remember those scenes. I don't watch TV. He just goes there, crushes it, and leaves.
Yeah,
Lives his Hopkins life.
He's a professional, man. He does his
Yeah.
freaking job.
Yeah,
He
and
gets
does it
out of
quite
there.
well.
Yeah, no, he
But yeah,
kills.
the line that killed me the most is when he said, "They are free under my control," and how he talks about how he creates beings that aren't burdened with anxiety and self-doubt and all the things that plague all humans, some more than others. And in a way, I'm like, yeah, he's kind of right. But then you have people like Maeve who feel completely stifled by it. So, and you have to believe that Ford, who knows everything that goes on in the park, has to know about Maeve and her plans to get out of the park, right?
I don't know, because there is this element of Arnold being the one who kind of started it all. So there's some things going on based on what Arnold has laid some groundwork here that Ford isn't privy to. So there's some things Ford doesn't understand, I feel like.
Well, perhaps Ford is focused solely on A, building his new narrative, and B, keeping Teresa and the board off of his back, whether that means killing them or not. And so maybe someone like Maeve is not, it's not in his line of sight right now.
Yeah.
But when he repeated the line that Charlotte said earlier about how they needed a blood sacrifice. And after he said that, he's like I said, I built all of this, implying that someone in that room with them was spying on them. Hector, the sex robot, was maybe listening, spying on them, and whatever happened, he heard what was going on in that room.
Yeah. What part did they say blood sacrifice again?
When Charlotte and Teresa had their little meeting.
Oh.
And Hector was...
Who said blood sacrifice?
Charlotte said they needed a blood sacrifice, and she was being metaphorical, and that's what led... She meant Bernard being fired. That was the blood sacrifice.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
then Ford repeats it down in the basement.
Yeah.
But he means actual blood, and Bernard murders him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I forgot that it had been said before. That line would have had much more impact if I would have remembered that.
No, he did it just to be menacing, just to make her last moments on Earth as terrifying as possible.
I think your theory that Hector was where he got the information from, I think that's probably it right there.
That's not a theory. That I'm pretty sure that came straight from the producers. Like, I read an interview with them. So that's legitimately what happened.
Yeah, I mean, how else could he have gotten that information? So,
but and if he has Hector on, spy patrol, and Hector had that moment with Maeve, he has to know what's going on with Maeve. I mean, he has to, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he's got spies everywhere. He seems to know everything. Yeah, he knows something.
And if Maeve gets out, the IP gets out, and that's not good for him. So there's something there. I'm sure it will be explained next week. Like, looks like it's going to be about Maeve's big escape attempt.
So is Maeve trying? Is Maeve trying to use the two guys to help her escape, or?
Yes, she threatened them quite thoroughly.
Yeah.
At least Sylvester.
Yeah, basically, she said, "I will kill you."
Yeah, she said, "I've died 1,000,000 times.
I'm not afraid of death. How many times have you died?"
That was pretty great.
Like,
it's pretty epic.
0. Yeah. Okay.
I can fix that for you.
I'm convinced. But the problem is, like, he's screwed either way. If he doesn't help her, she will kill him. If he does help her, he's going to die in the process.
Yeah, Bernard's probably going to smash his head against a wall. He's probably not important enough for that. They'll just gut him or cut his throat.
He'll just get he'll stabbed.
He'll get ganked.
So the throat slit seems to be the popular one.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, let's move on to new territory from this episode. What else you got, Katie? I know you got a lot of notes there. Let's keep it coming.
Look at all these notes.
Is that what, 5 pages?
No, that's 2 pages.
That's pretty good.
Well, let's talk about William and Dolores.
Yeah. Next most interesting thing probably from the episode.
Yes. What was your read on this whole storyline?
I don't know. I don't know. William is cheating on his wife with a robot.
Fiance.
His fiance, yeah. But he's like we said earlier, he's getting sucked into the world of Westworld. He's being won over. Is it possible for this to be true love? I mean, it seems like William is in love with Dolores. I don't understand. This can't be the
No.
first time a guest has fallen in love with a host. I mean,
To me, and watching it a second time really helped put this into perspective.
sure.
But William's storyline is playing out exactly like just a romantic action western. Like there's sweeping music, there's sweeping shots of the landscape, there's gunfights, there's chases, there's making love on a train and confessing your love to somebody.
Yep.
It has it all, and it's way too perfect and cliche for a show like Westworld.
Yeah.
And to me, just it's all playing out like it was set up this way. This was the way to get William to really buy into it. And he was talking about how when he was young, he lose himself in books and wished that he could wake up in one of his stories. And Ford has said he knows everything about both the guests and the hosts and everybody that comes into the park. And he knows what's going to get William to buy into this.
Nice,
and that's why
this is a narrative.
This is all set up. This is all part of it.
The narrative developed by Ford, and I mean, we've already seen Bernard working with Dolores quite a bit one-on-one, and we now know that Bernard is just a tool of Ford's.
Yeah.
So knowing that, we know for a fact that Ford has a very direct manipulation on Dolores. So yeah, I think that's totally true. Yep.
And just the things that Lawrence says, like the conversation between Lawrence and William, it's so like cowboy outlaw kind of conversation. Like he's talking about how he's always wanted to betray Logan. He's fulfilling all his heroic wishes from when he was just a nerdy kid reading books. He wanted to see that look on Logan's face. He wanted to meet a girl like Dolores. He wanted to be, on a chase from the Ghost Nation and the Confederados and all this stuff and come out the hero, save Dolores when she falls off her horse. It's just too perfect.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. The question then becomes why is Ford trying to give William this experience? What does he stand to gain from it? What's going on there?
Well, here's an idea. If you still buy into the separate timelines theory, it could be that this William and Dolores timeline is taking place when Arnold is still a living, breathing human, and he's putting this in motion to set whatever his plan is into motion. And Ford perhaps is unaware of it because we only really see Bernard talking to Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that doesn't make sense.
Bernard is a tool of Ford's. It doesn't necessarily mean that he was always only Ford's. I mean, he could have been Arnold's tool at one point.
Or no, because Ford said that Bernard wasn't around in the days that Arnold is around. So I forget where I was going with this. Some people think that Bernard was based on Arnold. That Arnold looked and sounded like Bernard.
Oh, that's a good theory. I could dig that.
When they show the diagnostics, the drawings of that Teresa finds, he sees Dolores, he sees young Robert Ford, and then you see Bernard, but you don't see his name like you do on the other ones.
They didn't show his name. Yeah, what if his name was Arnold?
Right. So that's what some people's theory is.
Yeah, that's a really good theory, because then maybe when we're seeing shots of Bernard talking to Dolores, it's actually Arnold talking to Dolores.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes total sense now.
But it depends on what kind of clothes he's wearing, because if the fashion doesn't jive, I don't know if you can...
Yeah, so you'd have to go back and look at that, because now Bernard's very sporty, very stylish.
He's wearing very contemporary clothing, and I feel like you couldn't have him wearing something like that and be Arnold 40 years ago,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all really good theories. It could definitely work out that way.
Yeah, so it seems the end game of this season at least has to be do Arnold and Ford's missions converge? Do they have
The same
the
interests.
goals the same, or are
Yeah.
they different? And that's what split them apart and led eventually to Arnold's death some years ago.
Mhm.
And I
I
feel
think
like
it's already
that's
been
where
hinted at that they have some disagreements, right? About
right.
some inherent sort of like different beliefs on what's right, sort of like moral disagreements, I feel like.
Yeah, like it's been implied that Arnold wanted the robots have free will,
Yeah, yeah,
whereas Ford says things like they're free here under my control.
yeah, yeah.
So
I feel like that's where the fundamental difference lies between those two.
yeah, but they're really holding off on the Arnold reveal. I hope we get it at the end of the season because this show's not coming back for over a year. So really got to give us something to.
Over a year, what's going on there?
Well, they renewed it finally,
Yeah.
but it's such an expensive and time-consuming show to make, and it has all these big actors in it that they're probably not going to get it out there until 2018, which is a bummer.
So
but at least it's coming back.
They have to get the money together and make sure they pay.
I'm sure they have the
actors
money.
enough.
They just have to do the scripts and make
They
it
have to
good.
free up the actors' schedules too, like you said. Lots of big actors. They have to make sure that all the schedules align or whatever.
Yes.
Anyways, back to the show. Yeah.
Well,
So
this is where my very literal interpretation of the title of that episode comes in. Is
Mhm.
the drawing that Dolores made,
Yeah.
like the charcoal drawing, and then they end up at the end of their chase. Suddenly, what she drew is there in front of them. So this is ridiculous and way out there, but I was interpreting the title of the show literally, of the episode literally, and how they kept showing the landscape and everything. And do you remember the Truman Show when he gets to the end and it's just a wall?
Yep.
And how Lawrence is like, oh, no one ever comes back from there.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that's it. That's like the wall.
Yeah.
And that's where Ed Harris, coincidence, and the Truman Show sits and talks to Truman and tries to convince him not to leave. That's where my mind went. Like, is this an actual like end to the world that they can't go past?
Yeah.
And is that what Arnold is trying to achieve?
Is it the edge of the world? Yeah. And what's Arnold trying to achieve?
Well, to me, I believe that he's the one leading Dolores to lead William on this chase.
Oh, okay. You believe it's Arnold doing that? Okay, yeah. Yeah,
that hasn't been proven at all. But
no, that makes sense. I think it makes more sense than Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does the Man in Black come into play how is he involved in William's storyline? How do those connect?
I mean, it remains to be seen. Either at the end of the season, they'll meet and we'll find out they were in the same timeline all along or something like that. But more likely, I think we're going to find out they are at two different timelines, and the Man in Black was somehow affected by what's being put into motion right now with William and Dolores.
Yeah.
And Lawrence seems to be a big part of it.
I am leaning more towards the possibility that maybe William is the Man in Black. Like I'm starting to think that could maybe actually be a thing. Maybe.
He's like still in his heart wants to believe. He's obviously jaded, the Man in Black is. Something happened 30 some years ago that caused a critical failure.
Yep.
And that he wants to believe there's more to Westworld than what he's seen up to now.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see it in the look too. I feel like I can sort of like see like maybe that guy grew up to be Ed Harris, it's not
his jawline got quite a bit more chiseled.
Yeah, but it's not so far-fetched,
No, yeah.
Where they couldn't cast him, as that character. It's sort of believable. Before I was kind of like, oh, they don't look anything alike, but they look enough alike where it's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind on that.
And it's really hard to cast two actors in the same role and then have them be good actors, but then also have them like resemble each other.
Look
Like
alike,
at a
yeah.
certain point, you have to be like, okay, good enough. It's more about the performance.
Yeah, you have to compromise the appearance a little bit, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
No,
So
I agree.
we'll see. I'm really excited about uh, where things are going.
For
I did
sure.
want to ask you one question going back to the Bernard scene
Sure.
at the end.
Yeah.
So when they go down to that basement, they find the papers and all that. There's also one of the machines that's creating a host.
Hmm.
Are we meant to believe that he's making a host to replace Teresa?
That's a really good question because it was actually working on something, wasn't it?
It was, and it seems that a couple of the articles that I've read seem to jump on they just assume that's Teresa. They're going to replace Teresa in the park, and no one will know she's dead. It'll be robot Teresa. However, in the preview for next week, they show Ford, Stubbs, the security guy, the Hemsworth
Okay.
brother,
Yeah.
Charlotte Hale standing over Teresa's dead body. So either those two are also hosts, or they're, admitting that Teresa straight up is dead. And not sure how
Yeah.
Ford's going to get out of that one, but
Well, I guess, Ford is a powerful man. Maybe he has these two in his pocket so much, even if they are human, where
maybe, yeah.
they just do whatever he says, even if he can trust them to the point where he can be like, I killed her. Like, we got to take
Wow,
care of it.
maybe they were all in on it to get Teresa out, because why didn't he go after Charlotte? He went after Teresa, who's the boss at Westworld, but she's not the boss with the board. So Charlotte would be higher up.
Right.
Know? So why did they go for Teresa?
I mean, ultimately, Ford doesn't want. I mean, that's what it seems like, right? Ford doesn't want his IP to get out there.
No.
He's not about it, but it sure does seem like that really is Shardev's motive.
Charlotte?
Is to Charlotte, right?
Yeah, you said Shardiv.
Did I say Shardev?
You combine the word Charlotte and motive.
Shardev's motive. Sorry, I didn't even notice that.
That's all right.
That really is Charlotte's motive, though, is to get the IP.
Yeah, and it seems to be quite an elaborate ruse to set up Teresa to get murdered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they're in the same. Yeah, Ford and Charlotte aren't on the same side by any means. I think. But how does he get them off his back? I mean, how does
maybe
Teresa...
they say Bernard did it? Maybe he makes Bernard take the fall, which is what happened. And Bernard just got fired, so he's like a disgruntled employee and a disgruntled lover. And he could be like, "Oh, well, he just couldn't handle the humiliation anymore, and he killed her." And then Bernard's just gonna hang out in his secret lair and like work for him there. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess my question is, how does that prevent Charlotte from getting Ford's IP?
It's a good question.
I don't know how it does.
She said that she liked Teresa for this job.
Yeah.
But maybe now they can pull someone in who Ford can more easily manipulate. I don't know.
Maybe. Because Charlotte's method of getting the IP, from what she said, was it wasn't ready to be extracted the way it is. They need Ford to do something that makes the IP ready for them to just sort of take.
Right.
Like, because the way things are right now, the robots are functioning and doing their thing. Everything's operating the way it should. But like I said, it's not in a form that they can just take that IP.
Mm-hmm.
And they need Ford to do that for them. And so part of her plan with Teresa was going to do something that made Ford kind of tie up the IP in a nice little package that they could sort of just have,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how. I would have to go back to that conversation because I feel like a little bit was sort of hinted at, like how they planned on getting the IP from Ford. But I do know that Teresa was needed to make it happen.
She was, yeah, and now she's gone. So I don't know what kind of liaison or what is her title? CEO? I don't know who they're gonna get now. But yeah, Teresa's gone. That's all I know.
Yes, she is.
Maybe there will be a host Teresa walking around, but I think people should just look at that preview and they'd probably get their answer that Teresa's gone. There's not gonna be a robot Teresa just running around.
Maybe. I mean, it depends if the two that are looking at the body with Ford, I mean, if they are with him and if he can trust them, like they're all in like cahoots, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He can put a Teresa robot out there and they're not gonna say anything, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
It just depends on where those people stand, I guess.
Yeah. I'm excited to see Ford's narrative. I'm really getting amped up to see that thing.
Oh, the thing he's building, the thing
The
he's
new narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's he sort of like made a like large section of the park. He's like expanded the park for this new narrative, right?
He's going balls out. This thing is legit. And I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what it is because clearly no one's going to stop him from getting it done. He'll bash their head against a wall or have Bernard bash their head against a wall. So it's going to happen. And I want to see it.
That's no, it's going to be cool. So one of Ford's biggest motivations, it seems like, is just storytelling. Like he loves
playing God.
Yeah, he likes creating these worlds, like the same way, you know, a writer likes to write books, fantasy books. They create worlds, or you know, a creator of video games, they just like that creation of worlds.
Yeah,
like
imagine if you could bring those worlds to life and they were all real, but just not quite real, which again alludes back to the title of this episode. Like that's as real as a creation can be, but it's still not quite real.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's basically playing God. That's what it comes down to. And that's what that's what creating video games is too. It's just not as convincing as like actually making robots filled with flesh and blood and making them have minds.
Maybe that's the Man in Black's whole thing. Like he wants to believe there's more to it than some just all-powerful creator playing God and telling stories. Like he wants to believe that he can crack it somehow. And maybe that's where Arnold comes in, because the Man in Black seems very focused on Arnold, and Arnold perhaps was more into the meaning of it, the mysteries of it, whereas Ford is all about the beauty of storytelling.
Yeah. No, I could see that. And Arnold maybe planted these little clues, you know, because he loved that meaning stuff so much. And Man in Black can sort of see that, you know, somebody put that stuff there, and I want to figure out what he was doing, you know.
Because if William is the Man in Black, then William just got caught up in one of his stories and at the end felt nothing because it was meaningless and it was just a story. And all these years since then, he's been spent trying to discover that there was something else beneath it all.
Sure, that could be. Yeah, maybe at the end of the day, Man in Black will just be let down by...
That's how most of us feel, you know, when we like finish a book or, you know, a video game.
When we finish Westworld 7 seasons from now, we're just going to feel let down.
I mean, you don't feel let down so much as you just feel kind of emotionally spent. Like I can think of 2 instances in my life, and it's going to make me sound... can I sound nerdier than I already do? Probably not.
No, impossible.
But going to Return of the King and having that finally be over, and then the last episode of Lost, like both like emotionally wrecked me. Even though I was satisfied with the storytelling, it's still like, you know, it's over. That's it.
Yeah. It's always tough to let go of that that story you invested so much in, and
maybe Man in Black just can't let go.
Yeah, that could be it. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
What else you got from this episode, Catie?
Holy moly. I mean, those were the 2 big. I mean, there's a little bit of Maeve stuff. We've kind of talked about it. Maeve's gonna she's gonna murder people or get out. So there's that.
Where does she plan
Uh,
on going?
out into the real world, which I think should happen. Like, let's get a robot out there and see what the real world actually is, because we don't even know what freaking planet they're on or what year this is, what galaxy they're in. Like, I think it'd be really cool to have a robot escape, and she's super high functioning. She's got a 20 bulk apperception or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So she'd probably do pretty well out there.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we need to see that, but if that's part of the story that they want to dig into and something they want to include to move the show forward, I think that's fine. Yeah, I don't think we need it, but yeah, it could work.
it could
Adding that,
work.
yeah, adding that into the dynamics of the show for sure.
Yeah, but we'll see how that all works out.
Sure. What else you got in them notes there, Catie?
Um, I have Return of the Jedi because that whole chase scene with the Ghost Nation reminded me a lot of Return of the Jedi, down to the part where Dolores falls off and he has to go back and rescue her, just like Princess Leia fell off and they had to
Did
go
she
rescue
fall
her.
off the bike or whatever?
Yeah, I guess they didn't go back and rescue her. She met an Ewok, and that was her thing. So
Oh
not
yeah.
quite the same, but it reminded me of Return of the Jedi,
Oh,
nonetheless.
cool. Nice.
The Confederados were the stormtroopers.
Yep.
No,
Yep. Um, did did you know what the piano song was? It sounded familiar again, but I don't know.
I didn't know. However, the harp song at the beginning was Reverie. It's a classical piece.
Okay, yeah.
And they played that one other time in the season when Ford was first telling Bernard about Arnold. And again, in this episode, it played at the very beginning when Bernard was having his dream about the moment his son died. And he was reading Alice in Wonderland to him.
Yeah.
Which, why implant such an awful memory into a host? I mean, that seems rather cruel. But I guess if you want him to believe he's human, that's what you do.
Yeah, I think that's something Ford does that's kind of twisted, right?
Which is why Teresa is, I feel, correct when she calls him an effing monster. Um, but at the same time, I mean, I know what Ford did was evil. Let's not forget that. But was there some part of you that was like happy that he still took control and stuck it to the corporate monsters?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it depends on how you're looking at it because yeah, blood sacrifice is a really good way to put it because I think ultimately the intentions of the people that want their IP, they can't be good.
No,
They can't
I
be
don't
good
think
intentions.
so at all.
They want the IP to do things that have to do with power and taking over the world, I feel like.
Whatever
And
world that may be.
yeah, and we like that is where knowing more about the outside world would probably be useful because we don't know, what the outside world is like. Is it a good thing to take over? Is it bad? I don't know.
Well, we know it's a world that appreciates Soundgarden and Radiohead, so super into 90s alternative music.
Yeah, so terrible world then. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, we
I
don't
like
need to go back to that.
I like alternative music. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh yeah, these people that want the IP, they probably have bad intentions for how they're going to use it. So I feel like Ford protecting his IP and just using it for storytelling is in the best interest of humanity.
Yeah,
so 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 Teresa is a blood sacrifice to protect humanity from these people and what they want to do with this IP. It can't be anything good.
maybe. That's probably
Yeah,
giving Ford too much credit, though. I really think he is kind of a monster who just wants to keep the artistic integrity of his world and his creation and wants
sure.
control of it. But perhaps both things are happening at the same time, like in
Yeah,
Forrest Gump.
you're probably right. It's probably more selfish reasons for him doing what he does, but at the same time, maybe without realizing it, he is preventing bad things from happening by keeping that
Two for
IP
one.
out of their hands. Yeah, and
Win-win.
maybe that was something Arnold was aware of that he didn't really understand. Is that this
Could
IP
be.
in the wrong hands could be bad news. So
Yeah, maybe that's why he built the maze. I don't know why. I mean, I assume Arnold built the maze, but that even hasn't been proven either. So,
Yeah, maybe that is why they built the maze. It's like sort of their way of protecting the IP from, maybe they realize, we have the capability of creating this world and making these artificially intelligent people, but we only, our intentions are good. We only want to use it for entertainment purposes. We don't want it to become what it could become. So let's just keep it out of other people's hands. And maybe the maze plays into that.
that's what they said about Jurassic Park. And then that fat guy tried to smuggle out the eggs,
Yep.
and look what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows, maybe Man in Black is actually someone who shouldn't get his hands on the IP, someone who it would be bad if he did.
That could be. I'm excited
But
for more Man in Black. I feel like we've been light on Man in Black the last couple episodes, and I want some more
I agree. We need to get back to him.
now. Now's the
Right
time.
now. Yes. What else you got?
That's it. I mean,
You spent?
we've had some good talks, good points that we've hit on here.
Yeah, we're on to stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited for episode titles that I can pronounce,
Yeah.
and just seeing where the last 3 episodes for the next year, whatever, go.
Sure. What do you have any info on next week's episode or?
No, other than the
Okay.
preview they showed, it looks like Bernard is aware of what he did, and he knows now that he's a host. So what does that mean?
Yeah, that part was freaky. I mean, when he realized, when he was sort of having that brain fart thing where it's like,
Mhm.
I can't be a host. Like, I'm a host. What the, like,
That actor was so good at that. Like and
yeah,
then Ford telling him not to get worked up and shutting him down
it was convincing.
was,
It was very convincing. And I
yeah.
can't
And how
imagine.
he didn't say kill Bernard. He said, what did he say? He's like, our host has grown weary or something like that.
Yeah, and that was like
It's
that was
time for
the
her to go or something like that. And that's
yeah,
when
that
he
was the
knew.
trigger. That was the trigger for him to kill her.
And he took off his jacket and his tie, just like Gus on Breaking Bad, and he went to town.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice. Chilling scene for sure.
Chilling. This was my
Um
face during that whole scene.
yeah. Do you want to do an MVP for the episode?
Oh boy. What do you even do? I'm gonna go with like actor or character.
I don't know. Yeah, how do we do MVPs?
I mean, I'm just gonna give it. Maybe this makes me an effing monster, but I'm gonna give it to Ford for just being one step ahead of everyone, and the way, just the performance down in the basement of death
Yeah.
was pretty unforgettable.
I would say give it to William, because like he's
For
having
being duped into this
yeah,
story.
like it seems like he's having, such a great experience in Westworld, but
Yeah, he's
but
finding
uh
out who he really is, which
but
is a
he's
chump.
he's being duped. Yeah, I think your theory that you presented today is pretty accurate, and he's being played. He's a pawn in someone else's game. Um, Otherwise I'd give it to him. But yeah, I think Ford is a good one.
I mean, that's definitely white hat and black hat, and you and I are going black hat, but I mean,
Yeah,
he's the smart
what's
one.
the criteria for MVP? I mean, I
We've never
could
done it before, but the
yeah.
character that left the biggest impact on me this episode was Ford, no
Yeah.
questions.
Well, I could say Bernard too. I mean,
Yeah,
just the reveal. I mean,
yeah.
he's such a big piece of the story so far, and revealing that he's a host
Oh,
is
I had a
a
question.
MVP moment. Yep, go ahead.
We found out now in this episode that when they see something that will hurt them, they're programmed not to recognize it. We saw it with Hector in the beginning. We saw it with Bernard at the cabin when he said, "What door?" which, by the way, was terrifying.
Yeah.
And then, but in the very first episode, Abernathy saw that photo of the girl in modern times, and that's what set him off. So how come he could see that?
Oh shit, that's a really good question.
Someone
I don't know.
programmed him to recognize it or something.
Yeah, I
Probably
mean,
Arnold.
yeah, it's almost like there was a hole in his programming, and this particular image, like it was very intentional that they planted this picture because this picture was able to cut through, you know. There was a hole in the programming. That's my theory.
Okay, I like it. I want that Abernathy to come back because that actor was really good.
Yeah, he was really good, and I feel like there's more they could do with his story. I guess the more Dolores's character and story moves along, we'll probably get him back.
Yeah, and do you think that Clementine is done now? Like she's not going to be there anymore?
Well, what happened to her again? She
They gave her like a robot lobotomy. It's like I read that it's like drilling a hole in
hard drive.
a disc. Yeah, a hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you want to, like you probably saw it in Mr. Robot all the time. Like whenever he wanted to wipe a drive and make sure no one ever, got the information on it, you drill a hole in it. I think it's the same. Yeah, it's exactly the same concept. If you drill a hole through their brain, you've ultimately made it unsalvageable to the point where you have to start over. So I'm sure they have the plans and programming for all these.
But they can use the vessel, the body again, because the body's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure they have some aspects of the personality backed up to where they could sort of do like a transfer of,
Okay.
Transfer her personality to this new brain and stick it in there and boom.
Okay.
Good to go. But yeah, essentially that's what's going on is in the context of the show, I feel like that's the way of saying, yeah, she's Dunsky.
Okay.
But to me, in theory, there's no reason she couldn't come back.
Right. As a completely different character.
But for the purposes of the story, I feel like that's the way of saying, yeah, she's gone.
Okay.
And
that's funny. We lost a human and a robot in this episode.
Yeah, and that's why Maeve was sad.
Upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think she could sense that this was.
She understood what it meant. Yeah.
Well, she has a 20-app perception, so.
And she gave Teresa the hardest side eye I've ever seen. It was pretty awesome.
Side eye.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
All right. Well. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say perhaps Maeve should be my MVP for that side eye alone, but I think I'll stick with Ford.
Okay. I'll give it to Maeve then.
Okay.
All right. Well, that does it for this recap podcast of Westworld on TV is Our Real Mom. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week sometime when we break down episode 8. So thanks for listening. Have a good night.
See ya.